Bonjour à tous, bienvenue sur French Grip Channel. Vous connaissez ce monsieur, c'est Thomas Lang, le meilleur imitateur de Arnold Schwarzenegger que vous n'ayez jamais vu.
Incroyable.
Et un batteur extraordinaire qui nous matraque le cerveau avec des concepts de fou. C'est vraiment un truc de fou. So Thomas, do you like this kind of events? You are the teacher for many students for days, 2 days.
Yes, I do. I think it's really fun to share whatever I know and I have learned over the years, and it's fun for me to share it in person and see the impact it can have, the immediate impact when people understand some new information and can apply it. And they're usually really fun hangs, you know, with like-minded people who are all genuinely interested in what I do and in what we all love and enjoy. So yes, I enjoy it.
And it's something that you do since a long time, because maybe people of today, maybe younger people like in their 20s, they maybe don't know your DVDs, but you realized in the 2000, the years 2000, two great DVDs, Creative Coordination and Creative Control. It was huge work at this time.
Yes, and those DVDs are still out there and people are still enjoying them, thankfully, to this day. And but also the DVD industry has disappeared, as you know, so everything's now streaming and online schools, and I also created online schools, many different ones over the years. I started with one in 2005 with a company called ArtistWorks, and then I had my own school on Vimeo, Thomas Lang's Drum Universe, for many years, and I worked with Drum Channel, and I created a syllabus for Drum Channel, and also I've done a bunch of stuff with a new company called My Groove. It's an app that's only in German, but it's a huge curriculum on that app.
Okay.
So I try to put a lot of information out there in many different channels.
You were one of the first guys to take seriously the internet thing, because it's been a long time. You are in the internet. The first site is pretty old now.
Yes, it's the first site was 2005, so very old, 20 years. You know, I've been in the online streaming, online school business.
And for the amateurs, the observers of the drum world, you were more a clinician and more a masterclass drummer and a demonstrator more than a musician.
No, never.
Of course.
You know, I was always more of an active working musician. And whenever I had time, and as a side business, basically I started teaching. So I started, my first VHS instructional video was recorded in 1993.
Okay, only in German?
Only in German, exactly. But I never had time to teach in person because I was busy working and touring and recording. So, but I had a lot of requests to teach, and I thought rather than teach one-on-one drum lessons, you know, I should record a syllabus and then provide it to many people via VHS. So my first instructional VHS was 1993.
It was called in German, please?
Ultimative Schlagzeug. Yes. Ultimate Drums. And there was a part 1 and part 2. It's a 2 VHS pack, and with transcriptions and everything. And that went really well, because it was the first ever German language instructional drum video. So it sold really well, and later was translated into English and Spanish and other languages. And I think because those first videos were so popular, people thought that I was a drum teacher. But I only recorded the videos because I had no time to teach, and I didn't want to teach one-on-one lessons. I said if I present some kind of a concept, then I put it on VHS, a video, and I sell it.
And it's weird because at that time you shared this reputation with maybe one of your friends, Marco Mineman.
Yeah.
Because it's German too,
yeah.
And you were the two guys, the two aliens, drumming aliens coming from Germany and Austria.
I'm from Austria.
Yeah, I know.
But
German-speaking guys.
German-speaking, yeah, exactly. And yes, I mean, we had similar, like, synchronized like careers, because at the time we also had a lot of support from the same company, because Marco at the time was also a Meinl endorser.
Yes.
And we did a bunch of stuff together with Meinl, some tours together, and we had a thing called the Generation X, which was 3 drummers, and we had like a drum show together. And yeah, it was kind of at the same time. But you know, the teaching was always just a side activity for me. It was never a priority. And over the years it developed into a business too, but it was never intended to be that. It was sort of a way to release and relieve myself from having to teach in person.
Yeah, of course.
You know?
But in a kind of way, you took the place of guys like Jeff Porcaro, because before you are a studio making creative drummer.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes.
And people don't know on which record you play.
Yes, I know. You know, drummers are funny because they don't Google Thomas Lang composer or Thomas Lang arranger or Thomas Lang sideman. They usually go Google Thomas Lang drum solo.
Yeah, Thomas Lang stick tricks.
Yeah, stick tricks or double bass or something.
But you record a lot of things all year long.
Yes, my day job is working. I'm a working musician, composer, writer, arranger, producer.
Okay.
So I produce a lot of music, I write a lot of music, and I play a lot of sessions. And the teaching is a very small part of what I do, very small. So my main job is to record. I do a lot of session work, recording session work, to produce and write music, and to tour and perform with artists.
And sometimes people have the surprise to see you on stage, say, oh yeah, he plays with that artist.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, yes, and the thing is I don't promote when I work with other artists, really, ever.
That was the next question.
Yeah.
You don't promote this.
I use social media and the internet to promote products that I sell. So whenever I do my own thing, I promote that on social media. I don't promote, when I go on tour with an artist, I don't post, hey, everybody come to see this tour, because it's another artist's tour. And sometimes I do when people ask me, hey, can you help promote this activity, whatever, the show or the tour or whatever. Sometimes I do, but very rarely. I use social media and YouTube and stuff only really to promote whatever it is that I try to sell. And it's mostly related to educational products,
of course,
or drum camps or something like that.
You learned all your drumming skills in Europe, and then you choose quite rapidly to move to the US. Why did you make that choice?
Yes, well, I started working professionally right after school at 18. I was touring and recording, even while I was still in school, both in high school and at the conservatory at the same time.
Okay.
I was already working a lot with local bands and bands who were like popular in Austria. And as soon as I was old enough and allowed to tour, legally allowed, 18, you know, you have to be 18, and to work and make money, as soon as I was allowed, I was finished with school basically, I started touring internationally, and I was always influenced and inspired by British music, British rock music.
You first moved to London.
Yes, well, I first went to LA for a short period of time to check it out, and I didn't like it that much. And then I moved to London and lived in London for 16 years, a long time. And I worked a lot in London and around Europe because it's close enough to do work in Germany and France and Italy while I lived in London. And then I moved to the US, to Los Angeles in 2002.
Okay.
So whatever, 23 years now. Yeah.
And you see a big difference between Europe and USA, from you know, the business, the way that things happen.
Yes, yes.
The level of musicians too.
Yes, very much. I see a big difference, and that's the reason why. Well, it's not the reason why I went there. I didn't move to LA because of the music industry. It was because my ex-wife was from there, and it was a more personal decision. We lived in London for a few years, and then she didn't enjoy it as much, so we moved to LA.
Okay.
You know, because she knew the infrastructure and she was happier there. But I wouldn't have moved there necessarily. I would have stayed in London probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, now you're happy in Los Angeles. You seem to be.
Well, that's a very long answer. It's a very complex question and answer. I think I would be just as happy anywhere else, if not happier. LA is a very big, complicated place, especially in the recent years, you know, and we have a lot of problems in LA. It's extremely expensive. We have earthquakes, we have fires, you're always in danger. It's not high quality of life, and it's extremely expensive, you know. So it's not ideal for the infrastructure for music and entertainment is the best in the world, by far.
That's where everything happens.
Yes.
In the country.
Yes, I mean, there's no doubt about that. There are opportunities there that you don't have here. And there is an infrastructure there that you don't have here or anywhere in the world. Was 6 stroke rolls as singles or then and there are things that happen only in Los Angeles, that you get a call and say, hey, we need somebody in 2 hours. You know, it's an album for, I don't know, Lady Gaga. You know, and if you are in the scene somehow, you get calls like that you wouldn't get anywhere else, you know. And if you're good enough and you can do the job and you're somewhere on the call list, there's always a number 1, a number 2, number 3 call. If you're somewhere in the top 10, you know, you get calls.
And I think you are in every list.
Yes, I'm lucky enough to be on lists.
You're good enough,
and
not
good
just
enough.
lucky.
Yeah, and so of course I like that because you have a lot of opportunities that you really don't have anywhere else in the world. But you also pay the price for it, you know, by making a lot of compromises in regards to the standard of living and prices and earthquakes and fires.
And missing Vienna.
And missing Vienna, of course, yeah, which is very beautiful.
And is there a very big difference between the musicianship in USA and in Europe?
Yes, I think so, yeah. I think, you know, in the US in general, rock and roll, blues, R&B, rap, hip hop, metal, whatever, is basically folk music. You know, rock and roll its roots are in blues and in rockabilly and in second line stuff and in everything that came from New Orleans, which is a hybrid of African slave music, which is very rhythm driven, and of course European influences from Ireland and other sailors and so on. So New Orleans was a perfect melting pot to create what is now known as the most popular rock, pop, R&B kind of music in the world. And it has its roots in America, no doubt. And LA is the peak of all these influences accumulated in one place. So everybody in the US who is a great musician eventually moves to LA and works in LA. Or maybe Nashville, or maybe New Orleans or New York, maybe Chicago. And then you have that huge Latin music influence from South America. You know, via Miami, you have a lot of, you know, salsa, you know, son music, and calypso and soca and Brazilian influences, all in America as well. And they mix with blues, R&B, and rock and metal, and you have a really interesting, very broad scene in terms of styles, like nowhere else in the world. You know, in LA you have the best musicians from all over the world. They all go to LA because it has the best infrastructure and it's kind of a hub for entertainment. And not just music, also film, soundtrack, video games, and so on. So it's a huge scene and you have a huge metal scene in LA. You have a really huge like hard rock, extreme metal, thrash metal scene. You have like the symphonic metal stuff. You have like the epic metal. You have the power metal. Everything is in LA in terms of metal. And then you have a huge rap and R&B scene. All the big rappers, everybody is either New York or LA, but most of them are in LA. And then you have a huge soul scene. You have a huge pop scene, you know, everything like Lady Gaga and Justin Bieber and Britney Spears and Katy Perry and Pink, whatever, that's all LA. And then you have a huge Latin music fusion scene, you know, the West Coast fusion kind of stuff with Latin influences, all the, like everything from, you know, all the GRP record stuff, everything from like, everything from Chick Corea and Steve Tavalione to Jeff Lorber and all those kind of bands, you know, that fusion, easy listening, jazz kind of stuff is a big scene. And you have a huge scene that is a movie scene, you know, for Hollywood movies, soundtrack scene, scores, films.
And you work for them sometimes.
And then you have what you have probably nowhere else in the world other than maybe Japan is the video game music scene, which is the biggest of all.
We saw you recently playing for the Final Fantasy game.
Yeah, I played, I think, 9 of them. Yeah, and I play on many video games and I write for games. I've done like everything from Black Ops to Warfare, Vanguard to Twisted Metal, Marvel.
That's all the work that people don't know that you do.
Yeah, yeah, it's a huge amount of work I do. Yeah, and it's also interesting because most young people consume more music while playing games, game music, than they listen to Spotify or Rhapsody or Pandora or anything else. So most music consumed by young people today is video game music.
Okay.
Because they play for 6-10 hours a day and listen to the music.
So as a human being, let's project ourselves in many years. Do you see yourself finishing your life in Los Angeles or maybe moving?
No, I don't see that really. Moving is more likely.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. You can take the boy out of Europe, but you can't take Europe out of the boy.
No.
You know what I mean? So I still feel more European, and Austria is my home, and it still feels like home. And I do eventually want to come back to Austria. And I spend a lot of time in Europe every year touring or working anyway. And I have a good balance of living in the US, but working all over the world. I do a lot of work in Asia and in South America and in Europe, all over. And so I spend enough time here not to get homesick.
Okay.
If you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
But as I look at the situation right now in the States, politically and economically, it is a weird situation to be in. So of course it inspires me and makes me consider moving. Places like Austria or Switzerland or some other European countries.
Somewhere where people speak German.
Not necessarily, it's fine. You know, even I get around, I can pick up languages fairly easily, you know, and I would feel comfortable pretty much anywhere in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, but of course more likely Austria or Switzerland or Germany or Northern Italy, something like that, yeah.
Okay, let's talk about drums.
Okay.
Can you tell us about the famous 10,000 hours? Because this is the legend.
Yes.
Thomas Lang is the guy with the 10,000 hours of practicing.
What's this? Or left drop. So, and also for double strokes, of course. You use the same idea, same thing with the hands. Stone killer. You speed that up and you do the same thing with the feet. You use, for doubles, you use an ankle stroke and a stomp. So, ankle stroke, stomp, ankle stroke, stomp. Soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud, soft, loud. When I started, I didn't think about, and I didn't know about the 10,000 hour rule. I think I only discovered the 10,000 hour rule when I read the book, which was much later, and by that time I'd already practiced for 50,000 hours. So, but it makes sense, and the 10,000, it's Malcolm Gladwell wrote the book, and some other great books, but it is a basic guideline and rule.
Like personal development. So.
Yes, regarding developing a skill, whether it's an athletic skill or just a knowledge acquired to be considered a professional. It doesn't mean that you're the best in the world. It's the minimum you have to put in to be considered a professional. Whether you're a medical doctor or a basketball player or whatever else. You need to invest a minimum of 10,000 hours to reach a level of skill and command that is considered professional enough to be working and to be a specialist in that area of expertise. So, of course, you know, I believe in the 10,000 hour rule, but this is really only your foot in the door of a career. If you've spent 10,000 hours, you are good.
You can play.
You can play, and you can work, and you can do whatever, surgery, you know, if you're a doctor. And everything beyond the 10,000 hours, 20,000, 30, 40, 50, 60,000 hours, that makes you world class. You know, so if you look at Buddy Rich, he played much more than 10,000 hours, you know, and especially throughout his whole lifetime. So you have to look at people like, I don't know, Vinny or Dave Weckl, who's also here. They have practiced not only 10,000 hours, probably 20,000 hours, and then they started working and developing further and further and further and continue to practice. So at one point, when you start counting playing and experience and recording and listening to yourself, all that is added hours and added experience and added evaluation and re-evaluation and corrections. So you end up accumulating 30, 40, 50,000 hours of expertise.
I ask you this question because when we see you playing and teaching all those people, we have the impression that you ate everything that drum is able to propose to the people. We think that you learned everything, you learned all the concepts and all the polyrhythms and everything. So do you still improve?
Yes, of course, I try to all the time. And yes, I mean, I'm still interested in improving and tweaking and adjusting and learning new things all the time. And I think about it because it's still fun for me to develop new stuff. And for me, the most attractive thing about playing music is creating something that I haven't heard before. And in order to hear something that I haven't heard before, I have to create it and record it.
Okay.
So most of the things I hear, I've heard before. There's hardly ever anything that I haven't heard before. Because I work so much in studios with new music all the time, so I'm pretty much on the cutting edge of what's happening in metal and in pop and in rock and whatever.
And as a producer, you also touch to all the electronic stuff.
Exactly.
And the jungle and everything.
Yeah, so I know what's happening and it's hard to surprise me. So my ambition is to always try to create something new and interesting that I haven't heard before. And that requires me exploring on the drums and musically in general and trying to figure out kind of new things, new approaches and being creative and innovative. And that's the fun for me and the challenge for me. And in order to do that, I have to keep practicing and keep developing new ideas.
Okay. We all saw you doing the audition for Dream Theater.
Yeah.
And there's a question, a big question. Is there a band that you dream playing for?
Because
Dream Theater, maybe not.
No, not.
I think it was like an opportunity to participate.
Yeah, it was sure, absolutely. That's why I did it, because it was a good opportunity, and I wanted to find out more. So
of course.
you can only find out about how much work it is and what the deal is and how much money it is when you do the audition, you know. So it's a necessary evil, you know, if you want to find out things. So that's the reason why I did it, because it was a good opportunity and I wanted to find out more. People I always wanted to work with is, of course, Sting, for example.
Okay.
He's very attractive, but anybody who's like up there, anybody from like Elton John to, I don't know, even, I like legacy acts. I like the old school rock and roll acts, and I like handmade music. I like pop, and I've worked so much in pop music, you know, over the years, especially while I lived in England. I did so much pop music. And I like it, I enjoy it, but it is pretty one-dimensional.
Okay.
It's good work, and it's fun, and it has its own challenges, but it is not necessarily the most gratifying music. So I like music that's a little more progressive and that requires actual skill. And there's not many bands like that out there that are both commercial and also progressive.
For people that saw your first English-speaking DVD, you were playing with a guy called Conrad Schrenk.
Schrenk, yes, exactly.
That was very demonstrative and cool.
It was very cool. We had a band.
The Extravaganza.
Yes, the Conrad Extravaganza, and we also had a band called Save the Robots, and recorded albums and toured with that band. That was fun, but it's not very commercial. There's few acts that are commercial and also progressive.
Okay.
Like, the era is kind of pretty much gone, but I like those bands. And there's a band like, you know UK, the band UK,
No.
Terry Bozzio used to play in UK.
Okay. Yeah, yes.
So I work with UK,
Sorry.
for example. It's really fun because they're great songs and also progressive. Or Genesis, great songs but progressive. Or Supertramp, fantastic songs but progressive. Or Pink Floyd, great songs but progressive. So I like the progressive rock world. I worked with Asia, and I worked with John Wetton,
okay.
and with UK, and with bands in that genre. I always enjoyed that very much because it's commercial, but also interesting to play. And so I like those bands and artists that have that combination of structure and freedom. Like, you have structured songs that have great choruses and are powerful and commercial, but also you have sections where you can improvise and be a little freer.
Things that are pretty rare today.
Very rare these days, yeah. It used to be a lot more popular, but very rare, yeah.
Let's talk about the gear, because you are one of the biggest partners of Meinl. You are one of the drummers that made Meinl be known. You work with them since many years and you developed this.
Yes, my new signature ride.
It's great.
Yes, I joined Meinl, I think, in 2000. Yes, so 25 years ago. And I think I'm probably the longest endorser.
Maybe.
Yeah. I think all the other endorsers who joined with me at the same time have left the company at one point. So yeah, I'm very happy with the cymbals, and I just released my signature ride cymbal. It's called the Flex Ride. It's 21 inches, has a very large bell. It's very pingy and has great stick attack, but not a lot of wash, because I play beefy sticks. You get a great bell sound, a great ping sound with lots of attack. You get a big crash when you crash it.
And you can crash it.
You can still crash it. It's a huge explosive crash. And it has really great articulation. and I think it looks beautiful. We worked on the design with like a black lacquer and my laser logo. And it's a very beefy cymbal. It's 21 inches and it weighs 3.1 kilos.
And they trust you a lot because this is not the only cymbal you develop with them. You have many cymbals
Yes.
on the minor line that people don't know that this is yours.
Yes, like the fast hats, for example, all the fast hats.
The old Generation X, the gray ones.
Yes, all the Gen X symbols, the compressor crash, the signal crash, the filter chinas from 6 inch to 16 inches, all the whole series, all the filter chinas, the fast hats, 13, 14, 15 inch, the stack symbols, the trash china, the trash crash, the Thomas Lang super stack, the flex ride.
And every time it's a collaboration, they call you to ask for some new products, or you contact them to say, I will need this, would you be interested to develop this for us?
It's been a combination over the years. In the beginning, they said, hey Thomas, are you interested in creating your own line? I'm like, yeah.
Of course.
And then there were moments where I said, I need a different hi-hat, let's work on something. And we created the fast hats, and then they said to me, hey, I was creating these stack symbols. I'm working globally all the time. And if I need a drum set in Australia, it has to be workable. And if I need one in Japan, it needs to be the spec and the sizes I need. And it was just impossible to provide everything I needed. And I always had to make compromises.
It's quite surprising because in Europe, this is very, prestige to play in Sonor.
Yes, I think they are fantastic drums, and it is a prestige. They're a really, wonderful product and instrument. But they don't and didn't have the infrastructure and support I needed as an artist. They just couldn't. Not because they didn't want to, but they didn't have the infrastructure.
Too active and you move too much.
Yes, and I play.
This is not just a drum kit in a truck that tours with a band. You play
exactly.
in many,
I need
many
a
places.
drum set in a studio in Tokyo, and the next day in a gig in Kuala Lumpur, and the next day or 2 days later in Buenos Aires, and it needs to be a workable spec of kit that
Even this one, DW, is available to New Look in the company here.
Yes.
Maybe Sonor not. So
yes, exactly. So it was about artist support and service, about availability, and of course also about the quality of the instrument. And I mean, DW, in my opinion, are by far the best drums out there.
And according to the videos we see, this is just a few minutes from your home.
It's 10 minutes from my house. Yeah, exactly. So they're very close. And I also, even when I played Sonor, I often, before I designed the pedals, the Giant Step series, or helped design them, I played DW pedals with Sonor drums. So I've known them for so many years, even before I joined them. And when I left Sonor, I tried all other drum companies. I tried everything. And I spoke to everybody, to Yamaha and Tama and Pearl and Makepex and D-Drum and Gretsch and Ludwig, everybody. And I tried all the drums in the studio and live. And of course DW, and it was just no competition and no contest, because DW make the best drums, the best shells, the best combinations of wood. They have the most knowledgeable person, John Good, who is like a wood whisperer and a wood magician. And
you can discuss with him.
Yes, exactly. And you can tell him, I want this sound. And he says, you need that wood in that grain orientation with this moisture content. And they have the best looking finishes, I think. I love their lugs, the design of the lugs, the turret lugs, because these are the old Camco lugs, and I love Camco. They have the coolest finishes, and they have the best pedals by far of any of the drum companies, and I think they have the most amazing hardware. They have racks, they have the coolest stands and
very
clamps.
beefy.
Yes, very sturdy and beefy, and it's just the whole package is so much better than anything else, and they're everywhere in the world, and they are super cool people. I feel like it's a real family. Everybody who works there is a drummer.
And how much kits at home?
Oh, too many. Yeah, it's silly. I have way too many drums. Yeah, and I don't just have kits, and I have kits all over the world. You know.
You have the electronics. You have
And the
with
electronics.
Roland. You have
Yeah.
the snare drums, probably.
Yes, I do.
Cymbals, a lot.
Yes, a lot. I think 400 or something. in my
400 cymbals
studio. Yeah.
and mics with audix too.
And I have audix, of course, yeah. And I endorse DW, Meinl, and audix, and Remo, and
Big Firth.
Firth, and Ahead Armor, and JK drum plates, and Roland, and Gibraltar, and Hardcase, and some others. I can't think of everybody. There's a lot, yeah.
So what's next after this masterclass and this show?
Well, I'm going back. After this masterclass here, I go back to LA, and I'm in the studio for the rest of May, recording, doing video games,
Okay.
and music. I just finished one game a few weeks ago, and I'm doing two more now, and it's a lot of work, you know, because every game has theme songs for each character and or level, and then you have cues.
You produce it from A to Z?
Sometimes I write the music, a composer
Okay.
produce it. Sometimes I just play the sessions, or I co-write with other people and co-produce. So it's a mix of everything, but it's a lot of work because you have like theme songs for characters, and then every theme song has different versions depending on where in the game the player goes. You have different cues, and sometimes you have 10, 15, or 30 different versions of a song. There's a lot of recording work. So it's cool. I enjoy it very much, and I'm doing some more games, and then I have two camps, one in Nashville and one in Los Angeles at the end of May and early June. And then I go on tour over the summer. I'm touring with Gianna Nannini in Italy. We're doing a big 4 months tour in Italy, Austria, Germany, Switzerland, Liechtenstein.
Everywhere but France?
Yes, everywhere but France.
Like always?
Yeah. So this is a tour from June to September. You know, it's a big, long tour. And on off days, I often do clinics or studio sessions, depending on where I am.
Oh, including during the touring days?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So I sometimes have, even when I'm doing a show in the evening, I have a session in the morning in different cities. So, or I have a day off, and I have a drum clinic on the day off.
And you have to learn the material, or they give you the sheet and you play?
For the tour?
No, for the sessions during the tour.
Most of the time, they send me a link to like demos beforehand. It's usually what I ask for, so I come prepared. If it's really simple and not a lot of material, then they have charts in the studio. And for things like games and stuff, you have to prepare, of course. If it's just like the last game I did was a Marvel game with extremely complicated metal. Like a lot of the video games are like power metal and like really sort of epic, anime metal. And it's really fun music, but it's complicated.
Yes.
It would take too long to just read it in the studio because there's very complicated parts and stuff you have to prepare. So for these sessions, like on a tour, I usually get a link and I listen to it. And if I listen to it and it's like, it's fine, I can read that in the studio, then I don't think about it anymore. But if it's more complicated, maybe I'll ask for charts or write my own charts in preparation. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Thomas,
Yeah,
for your time, and for your patience, and
You're
for
welcome.
your passion, because
Yeah.
this is true.
Yeah. Well, thank you too.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay, pleasure. Thank you.
Merci.
De rien.